Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Welcome to another episode of the Arc of Thoughts podcast. In today's episode, me and Kasim are going to be talking about being productive Muslims. You making the most of our time and our energy, and trying to be productive and maintaining that productivity. So we're going to be talking about maybe some tips and tricks, some things that we utilize, some things that we advocate for as well, and we hope that if they aren't already inside of your life, then they come into your life. And just to start with, I think I just want to mention a couple of quotes just so that it gives us a bit of motivation as to why we want to talk about being productive. So the first one is from Albert Hubbard, and it's a similar sort of quote that he has as well as Benjamin Franklin, one of the ex-presidents of the United States of America. He basically says, if you want anything done, ask a busy man to do it. And that's what he's trying, from my understanding, what he's trying to say here is that busy people, albeit they are busy, but they're busy for a reason, because they're making the most of their time. Now, a person who is not busy normally has a lot of free time. Is not making the most of his time, of his assets. And there's another quote that I also wanted to mention as well is from a scholar of the subcontinent who has passed away, Sheikh Imam Hassan Sab Khandalwi. And he mentions that if you do the things that you're meant to be doing, then you will save yourself from doing those things that you aren't meant to be doing. If you are occupying yourself in those things which we as a Muslim or as a human you are meant to be doing, then those things which you aren't meant to be doing, those things which are maybe indulgence or are not desirable things to do, um, you want to spend your time doing that. So we have a few things that we want to talk about, inshallah. Um, Before we get started, I've got a cup of tea, Kasim, and I like to leave my tea bag inside of the tea. I know some people aren't fans of it, but I'm a person that likes my tea to get stronger as I'm drinking it away. Let me know what your thoughts are. um, but are you a tea drinker? Are you a coffee drinker? Or are you just plain water like Kasim? But before we continue, please do hit the like button. Do subscribe to our YouTube channel to follow our journey, and do share with your friends and family if you take benefit as well. So, Kasim, let's get started into this. Um, I guess the main thing that I want to, sorry, not the main thing, the first thing I want to talk about is like working pattern. Um, we've grown up in our life going through the education system, which is 8 o'clock till 3 o'clock. And we talked about this 9 to 5 work life. And whilst it's practical and I understand the benefit of having set times because you need a schedule, and we're going to talk about that soon as well. But I feel my understanding is that, especially when we're younger, or when I was younger at least, I used to think or have this concept of only being productive within them hours. And outside of them hours, there's no need for me to be productive or to be switched on.
Okay.
Obviously, I quickly learned that this was a wrong sort of attitude to have, but it was more because my mindset was that my body was also happy with that. And if I tried to do anything outside of that routine, my body would basically tell me, you're not meant to be doing this. I'd start yawning or I wouldn't be productive. So I don't know, what are your thoughts in terms of like working patterns? Um, when do you feel you're productive? Because I know like every person is individual in this as well.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts and when are you productive?
I'll be quite honest, over the past 2 years, I think a lot of people have realized, especially during the pandemic, that human beings only need systems, right? Because systems ultimately govern our life. And I know the 9 to 5 system gets a lot of stake for many, many reasons, and that's a different argument. What I'm trying to say though is that the system of the 9 to 5 or waking up early in the morning, being, or have gone to a job where you're there for a certain amount of hours, is that it gives you routine in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And humans can't function without routines and they can't function without systems because most of us, if we have our own freedom, we wouldn't know how to utilize our time, and that's the reality of it. That's why most people on the weekend they wake up very, very late, and then we're all so guilty of this. When we wake up, we spend a lot of time on our phone.
Mm-hmm.
We waste hours just doing things which are not productive for us. But you read that during the week, a person is very productive because he knows I've got to go work. Okay, before that, I either need to go to the gym oh, I need to do this, I need to drop this off, I need to get this done. So what happens, I believe that systems are there for humans to benefit from. And for me, productivity, I'd say either early in the morning or late at night. And that just depends on the time of season and the time of the year.
Mm. I think the main thing here is what I'm trying to say, and my understanding is that every person is an individual. Every individual has a capacity to work and be productive and be proactive. Um, but that may vary throughout the day. Like university is a classic example where you'll see people that either are early birds
Yeah.
or they work through the night. Like I know some of my friends, they used to work at what I would deem to be ridiculous hours in the morning. But if that's what works for you, then that's what works for you. You've got to utilize that. If you're a person who is productive late at night for whatever reason that may be, okay, utilize that time then for yourself. Don't spend that time idle, or don't spend that time in doing things which aren't productive. On the other hand, I also advocate for people to try, especially when you're younger as well, or whatever age you are listening right now, try different times and see what works for you. You have to come to a time that you are comfortable with. I know that one of our respected teachers and friends, Mana Harun Sida, he changes the way in which he works depending on seasons, depending on what time of year it is. And I remember, like, when I used to speak to him when I was younger, maybe around 16, 17 years old, he used to tell me about waking up at like 5 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, and after Fajr, starting his work from then. I remember him mentioning the benefit of it at that time was that if he starts his work at that time when the rest of the world is basically sleeping, he can finish by 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning, and then he's got the rest of the day to spend with family, or spend in doing whatever else that he wants to do, knowing that his work is already done. But at the same time, whilst he was waking up at that particular point in the year at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock when Fajr was early, he also changes the way he works based on seasons. Yeah. So he will spend, at some points in the year, he'll spend part of the night working, where he'll stay up until really early hours in the morning, but he's working in the late morning. And the reason that he might give is basically his kids are sleeping in that period of time, so he's free to utilize his time however he wants. And I think this is really important, that find what works for you. If what works for you is seasonal, then adjust based on seasons. And if what doesn't work for you is seasonal and you need a set time, then stick to that set time. But find what works for you. And this takes a bit of trial and error. You might try something and it might not work. It might be a complete disaster. Yeah. But I think, like we mentioned before, sometimes failure is a means to learn what doesn't work. Then you try something else. Yeah. Eventually getting to a point where something does work. I don't know. What do you think? What else do we sort of need to cater around at the same time though?
One thing I want to mention about systems or any routine or pattern that person has is that usually it takes 7 to 10 days to get used to something. Mm-hmm. And if you realize after 7 to 10 days it's still not working for you, then leave it and try something else. And the main thing for us, especially living in the West, especially living in Britain, where the Salaah times are so, crazy, they keep on changing, is that we tend to revolve our life around our Salaah. So in the winter time, most people have opportunity to wake up at Fajr and stay awake all the way until Isha, and then go sleep early and then wake up early as well. In the summer, it's different, where we have very, very long days. We go sleep very, very late. So according to our Salah times and stuff, things will change. Like you said, it's all about finding something that works for you. In terms of in the 24 hours, you get what you need to do done. One way or another, you get things done. Mm-hmm. And you're living a productive life and where you're happy every day, you're achieving stuff every single day.
Yeah. I think, like you mentioned, in the UK, we have Salah times that change throughout the year drastically. Yeah. For those who may not live in the UK, I mean, our Maghrib at the height of summer will be as late as 10 o'clock. And in the depths of winter, I'll say, can get to as early as just before 4 p.m. So it's almost like a 6-hour difference. And when it's changing fast. So even like at this period of time in the year, what we're in September, and Asr time week on week is changing by 15 minutes. So too is Maghrib, so too is Isha. So it's challenging. Yes, it is challenging, but this is part of the challenge that we have, inshallah. And hopefully, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq that we stick with our salah. We need to make sure that we revolve our days around our salah. And this becomes part of like planning. So Kasim, like the use of planning and having like to-do lists, I find to-do lists are just fantastic. And I think there's two benefits to them. Obviously, the first side is like on the productivity side of having a to-do list, so setting out the tasks that you want to do, and making sure like you don't forget. I'm quite a forgetful person myself, so I'll forget what I'm meant to do. So to-do list has helped me to make sure that I don't forget what I'm meant to do, and I fulfill each of the tasks that I'm meant to do. And there's the other side of it as well, where there's been studies in the brain where there have been people who create like a even if it's like a tick. So it might be somebody has like a little notebook in which they keep all their the list of things that they need to do, or a checklist on a phone. In fact, I saw somebody like an engineer actually. He made a little contraption of lights, and what he did was he had like really mundane tasks that he does every day, something as simple as like brushing your teeth or something like that. And he had 6 switches. And what he would do is he'd flick each switch when he'd done it. And the light is changing from red to green. And apparently these things, they release endorphins in the brain. And endorphins, they're known to basically be like a happy chemical, make us feel better about ourselves. So I think a to-do list also helps in that sense, where not only are you remembering what to do and setting aside your plan of what you're going to do, but also helping in terms of like checking off and making yourself feel good about it as well. There's always something good about finishing a project or finishing something that you were meant to do. I don't know about yourself, Kasim. Do you use to-do lists? Do you use checklists of any sort?
For me personally, I don't use any checklist. I don't use any sort of apps. For me, it's all mental planning.
Mm-hmm.
But I really advocate for a person to have some sort of plan in his life.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't just wake up on a normal day and just think, okay, what am I going to do today? Like I think you should be planning your days, be planning your weeks. You can't plan your months and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but you should know like 3-4 days ahead, like what's going on, what's in your schedule. If something comes up, how can you arrange it? How can it fit in with your schedule and stuff like this? So I'm a big believer of having some sort of plan. Different things work for different people. So for me, it's more mental planning.
Mm-hmm.
But if you work lists work for you, to-do lists, notes on your phone, writing out a list, anything like that, do it, man. But have a plan in your life. You need some sort of plan, some sort of direction.
Yeah. So I think I'll just give like a quick breakdown of some of the things that I do. So I'm quite an advocate of using your phone calendar. So I'll have my phone calendar. I might sync that across devices as well, so that my calendar has all the important tasks that I need to do. It's also a good thing in terms of keeping a log as well. So the thing is, like, I might go back and I might need to find something that I did on X particular day, or find out when something happened. So recently, I needed to know exactly when I had a doctor's appointment and needed to know the exact date. And because I'd recorded that in the calendar, it meant that I could go back and find out, okay, I went to the doctor's on this particular day. It's been X amount of time, and it was really useful. The other thing that my wife and I do is when it comes to doing our chores on the weekend or something, there's a long list of chores in the house to do, which there normally is. My wife's got really neat handwriting, so she'll use the iPad and she'll use like the Apple Pencil and she'll write out, okay, Yasin's list of doing X, Y, and Z, and her list will be, I don't know, A, B, C, right? Whatever it is. But it becomes like a bit of a competition as well. So I've done my chores, or I've done a majority of my chores, and she's still only done 1 or 2. Probably the other way around, right?
Probably the easy one, that's why.
Yeah, probably. If not probably, that's true. But yeah, and that sort of like makes it a bit of a competition as well. And having that competition, I think that's part of our sort of makeup, more my makeup at least anyway. Healthy competition, yeah, definitely. The other thing would be, I actually had, when I was during my master's year, I had one of them huge like A1 size calendar printouts that I put on my wall, and I had like a little Sharpie pen that was on the side. I can't remember whether I put it on like a piece of string and just attached it onto the board or something like that. But I used that to record like main events as well. But also when it came down to my exam time, Kasim, I think I had something ridiculous like 10 exams across 2 weeks. And the thing is, if I didn't have a plan of action of when I was going to revise for each module, it'd just be a bit like here and there. And I felt like that calendar just helped me focus so much. I woke up in the morning, and because I'd already made my plan a month and a half in advance, I woke up on any morning knowing, okay, I'm studying this subject in AM and I'm studying this subject in PM. Or this module, sorry, not subject, module when it comes to uni. And that helped me loads in just terms of having that plan of action. I already knew what I was doing, I just needed to execute now. So definitely, I advocate hugely for calendars like that. But I think the other thing at the same time, Kasim, is ensuring about your productivity, but you also need to like conserve your energy and plan for downtime at the same time as well.
Yeah.
You know, if you're planning your day or your weeks, or you know, some people plan their years who are like super hyper productive, will plan their entire year of I've got X long-term project that needs to be done, you know, on that sort of level, yeah. But especially during the day or during the week, you need to plan for rests in between. You need to plan for downtime in between, be it 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour, 45 minutes. But your mind needs a rest, your body needs a rest as well. And you need to give yourself that time. You can't be productive all the time. It's not the way that we've been made.
No.
We need to plan for that time where, you know, we calm down, take a step away, take a bit of a break. I don't know. What do you think on like not being hyperactive all the time, basically?
Yeah, you need to have breaks during the day. Short breaks, 15, 20 minutes. More than anything else, I personally think there need to be more mental breaks. Like, just stop whatever you're doing, you know, go get, if you drink tea, coffee, water, whatever, to go get something to drink, sit down, just relax, you know, just take your mind off whatever you're doing, just allow your brain to, you know, really calm down, and then go back to your task. Don't take too long, you know. If you need to go to the bathroom, leave yourself, you know, maybe wash your face, wake up again, you know. But yeah, take breaks, small breaks during the day. Don't make a break, you know, go into something which is like procrastination.
The other thing is some people struggle in terms of like sleeping. And if you are really, really struggling with sleep, then it's definitely something that, you know, you need to go to the doctor and have a chat about. But one thing it can also be is like being hyperactive during your sleeping hours or close to your sleeping hours. Let your mind calm down, come to a stop, come to a rest, wind yourself down as it comes towards time to go to sleep. And I think that naturally leads into taking naps during the day. Naps are, I think, are fantastic. I think
anything with sleep is fantastic.
What I mean is, like, in our culture, in British culture, in the way that we live our lives now, we don't really spend some time during the day just to have a nap. And honestly, I think they work absolute wonders. There's many sort of studies done in terms of like how we should take naps, and so there's studies in terms of like the times of how long we take a nap. And a nap doesn't necessarily mean that you actually fall asleep, even if it's just closing your eyes, spending some time lying down, not thinking about anything. But there's some who have suggested a 20-minute nap is a good time to nap. The other things that they just sort of mention in terms of napping as well is not napping with a duvet. So some people go into bed and they'll get like the big thick duvet out and nap with the duvet, but this is basically known to induce more sleep, basically, and that's not what you want to do. You just want to nap. You just want to recuperate. So either not using a blanket at all or using like a very thin sheet just to cover yourself with. Because I know some people like to cover themselves when they're sleeping because we're so used to it. So yeah, taking naps or knowing being aware of like your sleep cycle as well. So this is something that I've discovered as well, where again, there's studies that have been done into sleep where approximately a person's sleep cycle lasts about 1.5 hours. If a person wakes up too early before then, he may be in deep sleep and becomes very difficult to wake up from that like slumber. I'm sure you've experienced it sometimes where you wake up sometimes and you're just really groggy. So essentially what they're suggesting is that you're waking up midway through a sleep cycle. Rather, you should try to aim to wake up at the end of a sleep cycle. So for me, I know that is roughly 1 hour 20 minutes. And that's through experience of like trying it and seeing what's worked, what's not worked. And again, this is like what I'm suggesting. Like, you know, if you're feeling really tired and groggy and stuff, don't be ashamed or don't be scared just to, you know, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, just go to bed. You know, get an hour in, get an hour and a half in, recuperate and go again. And the other thing sort of to mention is when we're talking about naps and siesta is also like sleep as well. Learn your sleeping pattern.
Yeah.
I think they say between 6 to 8 hours is roughly the amount of sleep that a person needs. But again, each individual is different.
Everybody is different.
I know I'm on the closer to 8 hour range in that I know my body needs 7.5 to 8 hours for me to actually feel like I'm awake during the day. Anything less than that, I will start to notice it, especially over multiple days.
Yeah.
That's for me, and I sleep more. I sleep more. It is what it is. There's no shame in saying that my body needs 7.5, 8 hours. I know on the other hand, other people require less. I know there are people out there that are perfectly fine on 5 hours, 6 hours, 6.5 hours sleep. I wish I could be one of them people, to be honest, but if my body don't like that, my body don't like that. What can I do? But what I'm saying is, as an individual, you need to go through the discovery of finding what your sleeping pattern is and how much you actually need, not how much you want, how much you need. I don't know. Have you tried experiencing like different sleep times and what works for you?
You just try another. To me, I'm more 6.5 hours, 6.5 to 7 hours. That's enough for me, and I can function during the day. Don't need a nap. And also, it just depends on when you go to sleep. So even during sleep times, anything below 12 o'clock is counted as double hours, and then you get into negative sleep. Which anything after 12 is not beneficial for you. That's why if you go to sleep at 10, 11, 12, that's kind of not 3 hours or 6 hours. It's quite actually double sleep. Anything after 12, it goes to 1 hour. Then it just goes to absolutely no benefit in that sort of sleep. So you need that. Those people generally who tend to sleep earlier will wake up early, wake up fresh, wake up relaxed, recuperated, because that's the best time to go to sleep. That's just me, yeah. So especially in the winter days, I love it. Just going to sleep early, waking up early, and just getting on with your day. Summer's a bit difficult, but it's just what it is.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, summer is difficult.
I reckon if you in Britain, if you can be productive in the summertime in the months of May, June, July, August, and you can get stuff done, you can do it during the entire year.
Yeah.
Because I reckon those are the hardest months in terms of sleep, in terms of work, in terms of balance and everything. It's just ridiculously hard. But if you can achieve stuff, get stuff done, you can do it during the entire year.
And I think the other thing to mention here is that I know some people do struggle with sleep. If you really struggle, then go see your doctor. Get some professional help if that's what you need. Don't be ashamed of that. I know some people struggle, and it is a medical condition, and insomnia does exist. On the other hand, you do have other people who struggle with sleep, not because it's a medical condition, more because, like I said, because they're hyperactive. If you're spending a large amount of time on your phone, and you aren't able to switch off very quickly, and some people are like, I'll give the example of myself and my wife. We're two very different people in that sense, where with me, I can switch off like this. You put a pillow in front of me, I'm going to sleep. Nothing's going to stop me. It's not going to be difficult for me. On the other hand, my wife struggles with falling asleep really quickly. So that's fine. If that's what you are and that's who you are, then take that time to step away from your phone, last hour before bed. Don't go to sleep. I remember one of our friends, he's German, and I remember him mentioning to us once, actually, I don't know, actually, maybe not mentioned to us, but mentioned to me, that in Germany, if you go to your doctor and you complain about insomnia or you're struggling to sleep, the first thing that they actually give to you, or well, they tell you to do, is to drink chamomile tea.
Okay.
Because apparently chamomile tea has a calming effect on your body. So that's definitely something to try. I know some people like have a hot shower before bed, maybe a hot drink before bed, no caffeine. But chamomile tea might be something that you might want to try if you are struggling with this. Drink some chamomile tea, calm down, spend some time just relaxing, and then go to bed, inshallah. The other thing is, obviously, if our bodies aren't tired and our mind isn't tired by the end of the day, then how are we going to get sleep? If you're not being productive, you're not being proactive in your day, then you may struggle getting sleep because you've not utilized any of the energy in your body.
Definitely.
What other things do you think it's worthwhile to mention in terms of productivity, Kasim?
In terms of sleep and stuff?
I think we've covered sleep quite extensively. Unless there's anything else you want to mention about sleep.
No, just just get the right amount of hours in, and just figure it out.
Okay. I guess the next thing to probably move on to then is like eating and exercising, because I think we covered sleep quite extensively, like we mentioned. But getting into a habit in terms of like eating times or physical exercise as well. What are your thoughts on these kind of things?
For me, I'll be honest, food and physical activity plays a huge part in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of food, I tend to prep food. So I prep for like, I'd say 7-8 days.
Mm-hmm.
It just takes me an hour or two on one day. I'm done for the rest of the week. I don't need to worry about it. My food's all there in the fridge or whatever. It's fine, alhamdulillah. That also, it forces, not forcing me, but in that way I eat healthy.
Mm-hmm.
I eat well. I go to the gym. When I come back from the gym, I don't need to worry about food. Another thing is, in terms of eating food, everybody's different, but I tend to eat very, very early. So I consume the majority of my calories by 6-7 o'clock. If I was to eat anything at night time, I'd eat something very light. Now, if I was to eat something heavy at night time, I wouldn't be able to go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be able to relax, and next day I'd be feeling really, really bad. So like, I don't like eating past 8-9 o'clock, especially if it's gonna be my main meal. I'd avoid it.
Yeah.
And yeah, that I just do think, plan your meals, even your exercise. We should be doing exercise 3-4 times a week, whatever sort of exercise it is. Like for me at the moment, I've got this watch, and the target is 10,000 steps a day, which is not a ridiculous amount. It's just maybe 2-3 kilometers. It's about, I'd say, about an hour of walking. If even after work you don't do anything, we just go for a walk, 45 minutes, just clear your mind. You get your steps in, you feel good, your body feel good, and also you release some energy, which will help you later on to go sleep, to relax.
Mm-hmm.
But I personally think for especially the youth, be doing activity 3-4 times, whether that's playing football, tennis, squash, badminton, any of these things,
Mm-hmm.
something which is going to keep you fit, keep you occupied, and also just keep you well, because once you play, do anything, any physical activity, you release dopamine, and it has a good effect on your brain and stuff, rather than being sat in front of the screen just watching your PlayStation or watching your TV and YouTube. There's a time for that, there's a time and a place.
Mm-hmm.
But you need to add these things into your day.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. I think what you mentioned about like walking as well, it's really important. Like just taking 20 minutes, half an hour, 45 minutes, whatever it may be. I mean, I hope that everybody has the ability to take that time out. And what Kasim mentioning about like physical activity and stuff is really important for our own health. Sometimes I think we have an understanding of like exterior health indicators. So what I mean by that is something like maybe obesity, where a person can see that they're piling on the pounds and
Yeah.
they need to do something about that, or they may develop some sort of skin conditions because of something that they may be eating, or they a low vitamin D count or something. These things have they have indicators which are external, which we can see. But I think a huge problem within our society and within our understanding is because some of the things that we can't see, what's happening inside of our body, we don't have an appreciation for maintaining these kind of things. So, like for example, cholesterol buildup is one of them things which people don't really take action on it up until the point when the doctor turns around and says you've got a high cholesterol count. But realistically, if you're eating bad and you aren't exercising, then these things are happening in the background. I don't want to get too much into this right now because
we did a podcast on this, on healthy eating. And
yeah. I mean,
check that out.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about healthy eating and that kind of stuff, but I think this actually leads more onto substance abuse, I could even say. And we can get down to that in another episode when we talk about maybe like vaping, e-cigarettes, smoking, obviously drugs, alcohol, these kind of things as well, and the impact that they are having on our body, whether that be short term or long term. But inshallah, that's for another time. Let's finish off here. So, like, understanding your time, Kasim. So we've already talked about the use of like our phones, PlayStations, Xbox, generally those things which our computers, digital technology essentially. Having an understanding about like how often or how much you are using using tech.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it.
Using your gadgets.
Yeah. Thank you. I was looking for that word. But yeah, how often are you using your gadgets? And now within majority, I think iOS definitely has it. Android has it as well, where they have digital well-being sections within the settings where you can go in and you can have a look at how often you've used your phone or what you've used your
I
phone
think
for.
every week gives you a screen time check, whether it's been up, down, what you've been spending your time on and stuff, which I think is a great indicator of where your time is going.
Yeah.
There was one kid at school, he was using his phone 12 hours a day.
What?
Yeah, can you believe it? 12 hours a day, and I said, when do you sleep? Because I rarely sleep. And you just see the impact it was having on his life. Average, I think, is like 3 to 4 hours.
Okay.
It also depends what you do on your phone. You can use your phone to read, you can use your phone to do anything, but you can look how much time you're spending on social media. I think the average person goes on social media without even realizing he spends 20 minutes, and then he phases out, and then if he goes on it again, it's another 20 minutes, and that's actually a lot of time. You know, our phone. I'm not saying you don't use your phone. Everybody needs a phone, but look how much time you're spending on your phone, what you're spending your time on, and realize that if you're spending 4 hours on a phone, just cut 2 hours out, and you could be achieving a lot of stuff. You know, even like this thing of understanding your time. If you commute to work, take a book with you, read something, do some tasks, get something done. You know, don't waste this time. It's not just time just to sleep or just to chat to somebody. You utilize your time as best as you can, because if your time is limited, it should force you to achieve those things that you want to do. And again, it goes on to the thing of having goals in your life, having aspirations in your life, and working every single day to get closer to them.
Okay. I think some of these things obviously we mentioned in like the previous episode as well. So make sure that you definitely go back and check that out as well. I think the last thing that I sort of want to mention, I don't know if actually there's two things I want to mention. I think the first one is having a watch.
Oh yeah.
You've wrote on the notes buying a watch. I'm gonna say make a watch because actually this is one of this is a watch that I've made, and I actually want to make another one as well. The only problem is it's expensive. Oh, don't tell my wife. But yeah, having a watch. Kasim, you wanted to talk about like the impact that buying a watch had on your life. So go ahead, man.
I think I purchased my first watch, just a simple Casio one, at the age of maybe 18, 19. And before that, I never lived with a watch. I always used to have my phone with me. But then I realized that once I had my watch, I could tell the time. I didn't need my phone for as many things. So what happens now is that usually when I go out, I know most people will either ring me if somebody's dying, because I don't use my phone for so much social media interaction like WhatsApp and stuff. So now I have the ability to leave my phone at home and just take my watch with me. Now I can't live without a watch. That's just what it is. And what happens with the watch is just it allowed me to organize my time. And now I just think like buying a watch was one of the best purchases that I've ever made in my life. I've gone periods of like maybe months without using my phone, and it's been no problem at all. And all because I've had a watch. It helps me wake up, it helps me go to sleep, it helps me organize my life. I know what time it is. Even like when I'm eating, I know, okay, I've got maybe 15, 20 minutes to eat before I've got to go somewhere. And just like it changed my entire life, and I definitely recommend getting a watch. So you become less independent, you become less dependent on your phone.
I think the extra thing that I'd probably add on to that as well is like the use of timers and stopwatches and things like that as well. I think they work wonders. Like, you know, just setting like a time frame of, okay, I'm going to do this thing for X amount of time, set a timer for it, and go ahead and do whatever you need to do. So I think that's another good way of like organizing your time. The last thing that I sort of wanted to mention is like maybe some applications or some cloud services or things like that that you might use for. Oh, there's quite a few different ones. I think the main one that I just wanted to talk about was Notion, which is what we use to make our notes, right? I can use that to make like private notes for myself. At the same time, there's also where I can essentially make collaboration projects with as many people as I like. And I mean, that's what we use, right? For making notes for these podcast episodes that we have, we just, like mentioned in previous episodes, we just make like little sketch notes about the things that we want to talk about, just to make sure that we're producing content which is actually worthwhile. So when myself and Kasim are just collaborating on this, we'll use Notion. So we don't need to be in each other's company, and we don't need to be doing it at the same time. But we know there's a page where we can, throw things down on that page, and then just collaborate between the two of us whenever we've got time to have a look at this. So Notion is definitely one that I use. But yeah, there's so many different apps that are available that help in terms of productivity. If you've got any suggestions or any apps that you use in particular, I've only mentioned Notion here simply because it's what we use. I'm sure there's others, but I've not really thought about any others that I want to talk about, unless there's something you want to mention.
No, I'll be honest. Your Notion was the first one that I used. Other than that, I used the notes on my phone. Simple.
Yeah.
And then everything else I mentally plan.
Yeah. Checklists as well, actually. Not mentioning checklists, but checklists are a really good tool, especially when it comes to shopping. But yeah, I think from my side, that's everything. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention, Kasim?
I think that's everything really about that.
Okay, that's fine. I think the last thing that I just wanted to point towards is there's a really fantastic book wrote by Muhammad Faris. It's called The Productive Muslim, where faith meets productivity. And I think this is a really good book to start off with when looking at productivity. There's many books that cover productivity, generally come from like a non-Muslim perspective. Perfectly fine, because it's about managing time. So there's others that you can look at as well. But this is a good place to start with, inshallah. If you can get hold of a copy. I can't remember. I'm fairly sure I got this copy from Malaysia.
Okay.
Interestingly. But yeah, that's just a little side note. So yeah, definitely have a look into that. And you can start your journey to becoming, well, we can start our journey to becoming productive Muslims. But yeah, so Jazakallah khair for listening to today's episode. Inshallah, we'll see you in the next one. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.